Welcome, everybody, to a late edition of E.W. Jackson for America. I'm late today because I did a substitute show for Jenna Ellis on American Family Radio. So I was on this morning with the great audience of American Family Radio and enjoyed that. But I didn't want to not do the program. Well, first of all, two differences. One is I'm late. I'm on late because I'm usually on at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And two is I'm not normally on Mondays live. But I'm doing today live because I'm going to be spending Wednesday through Friday with my granddaughter, and I'm not going to have an opportunity to come on and talk to you all. But I want to say to my Instagram audience particularly, if something breaks, something big happens, I may do a special, program for you all. It won't have the background. I won't be in my studio, and you won't be able to see all this stuff that, well, you can't really see that much. But I'm in a studio right now, but I won't be in my studio. I'll be in the comfort of my daughter and son-in-law's home. But if something breaks, I will be on because I just want you all to know I'm going to stay on it. We are in the crucible right now. We are in a very, very serious situation at the moment. So look, as I said last week, by the way, I want to thank everybody for your support for our Stand Awards dinner. It was a wonderful dinner. It was successful on every level. And so I won't go into it again, but I hope that all of you will be looking forward to May, probably May next year rather than June. May has been our usual year, but we made some little adjustments. But probably May of next year, and we'll try to get to you about 6 months in advance to let you know so you can put it on your schedule and plan to be there. I'll tell you, it was tremendous. It really was, and we were blessed to have it, and had, like I said, a good crowd of people there, and blessed to have some. Sebastian Gorka showed up. Wasn't even expecting, but he showed up. My good friend, former Congressman Bob McEwen, was there. I wasn't expecting him either. He showed up. So it was a testament to the goodwill that we have developed with people, that we had such folks of such stature, frankly, show up. And people were generous, and they gave, and they committed to continuing the support of the organization. So I just ask you all for your prayers, okay, for Stand. And if you want to find out more about us, please don't forget America's Forgotten Children, because that's our premier project right now. That's what we're focused on more than anything else, because it provides a way in to talk about the racial division, the crime, and to talk about the breakdown of the family. Forgive me. I said I'm not going to use breakdown. The destruction of the family. The family didn't just... See, breakdown sounds organic. It sounds natural. This is not natural. The Democrats destroyed the black family. It didn't break down. They destroyed it. And that's the way we really ought to talk about it, to be honest about it. They destroyed it. Lyndon Johnson destroyed the black family. This Great Society program turned out to just be a family boondoggle. I mean, one of the worst things that ever happened to the black community, frankly. One of the worst things. You say, well, what about slavery? Well, slavery was a bad thing, obviously. That was 150 years ago. But what they started in the 1960s is still having impact today. And it is causing it is really the root cause of the scourge of crime. It's not poverty, it's not racism, it is family disintegration that has caused all of the crime and the street terror that is going on in the inner cities of our country right now. And that's what we've got to address. That was one of the reasons why I ran for president too, because nobody's really talking about rebuilding the family. Because I was chatting with a friend of mine, another minister, and was saying, because it's hard work. I mean, right, it's not the kind of thing you can say, well, next month we'll have accomplished this. No, you got to be looking down 10 years down the road. And you've got to be working and measuring and trying to figure out how you instill values in people that will cause family cohesion rather than disintegration and destruction. I mean, that's not romantic. It's not pretty. It's not easy. It doesn't admit of a quick 30 5-second soundbite. But that's the work that's got to be done. Frankly, in my view, it's got to be done in order to save the country, because the family is the fundamental institution of American society. And when the family goes, the society goes. And that's what we're witnessing right now. And the greatest enemy of the family in America right now is the Democrat Party. They are enemies of the family. And so, but thank you all for your support for Stan. Thank you for your support for Stan. You know, I'm talking to two different sets of people here. So, but you all get the point. All right, look, I want to continue the conversation I began with on Jenna Ellis. By the way, I'll be back on American Family Radio tomorrow, substituting for Jenna Ellis tomorrow from 8 to 9 a.m. So tune in. If you're in an area where you can get the program, you can listen to it on your radio. But don't forget, we have a podcast. I mean, we have an app, the American Family Radio app. And once you have the app, or you can go on the website, afr.net, but you have the app, you can listen to all the programming. So you don't need to have a radio station in your area in order to listen. So get the app if you don't have it, or just go to the website, afr.net, and that way you can listen to the program tomorrow between 8 and 9, and I'll be back on substituting for her. But here's what I talked about, and I want to share it again with you all. You know, I really believe this, folks. And I mean, this is coming from somebody who ran for president. As I've explained before, people say, well, you're a long shot. I said, well, everybody's a long shot except Donald Trump. I say, and if you're running because you think you're going to beat Donald Trump, you better find another reason. Not sure. You run and you think, who knows? Who knows what might happen? But in the normal course, if you're running to beat Donald Trump, you're wasting your time. You've got to have another reason. And of course, I was running to bring God back into the public square, to say America needs God, that America doesn't work without God, that our rights and our liberties and our freedoms come from Almighty God. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. That was the reason why I ran. That's why I jumped into it, to say that. To say what, frankly, Donald Trump's not saying and nobody else is saying. And I'm not faulting Donald Trump for not saying. It's just not his thing, all right? It's just not who he is. I believe that Donald Trump is an ally of the Christian community, but Donald Trump's not a preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I was running as a preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ to bring God back to the center of our culture. Now, if I got elected president, I realized I wouldn't be pastor of the country. I'd be president of the country, president of the United States. But those values would have informed what I do. By the way, some people have said to me, you know, Donald Trump ought to choose you as his vice presidential running mate. I'm flattered, but short of divine intervention and an almost an unimaginable miracle, that ain't gonna happen. Okay, I'm not even on Donald Trump's radar. I've never even been part of Donald Trump's inner circle. I mean, I only met the man one time. Of course, there are people who've been around him a lot. The circle of ministers that kind of surrounded him, I was never invited into that circle. So, and don't ask me why, I don't know. It's just the way it worked out. And I'm not upset about it or bitter about it or anything, you know, because I believe I've got plenty to do. So it is not as if I've been left with a vacuum in my life trying to figure out something to do. I've got plenty to do. This day is just another example of it. I got one thing after another to do today. I started with a radio program at 8. Now I'm doing this. And after this, I got something at 10. I got something at 11. I got something at 12. I got something at 1. I got something at 2. I got something at 2:30. And I'm not exaggerating, folks. So believe me, I'm not supposed to sit around and how come I couldn't go to? I don't have the moments. I don't have the luxury to do that. Okay, so, but look, you all know I am all in for Donald Trump. I am all in for Donald Trump. Because with all of his flaws, with all of his failings, and he does have them, obviously, so do I, so do you, he is really the best hope we have of saving this country, short term at least. He really is. So I'm all in for Donald Trump. So here's what I talked about. Who would have thought, right, that a billionaire, formerly a billionaire playboy, but a billionaire, would end up attracting black voters because they identify with him as somebody who has been mistreated by the criminal justice system. Now, folks, that to me is staggering. It really is. And that to me shows, is part of the proof that the hand of God is on Donald Trump. You know, I've put it this way. I don't know whether Donald Trump's hand is in God's hand, but I know that God's hand is on Donald Trump. I mean that, folks. I mean that. I really believe God is doing something here. And that Donald Trump is really just blessed to be the right person at the right time, and God is using him. And because, look, everything they do to Donald Trump to try to destroy him ends up making him stronger. So they convict the man. I mean, we have now, running for president of the United States, a convicted felon. And, you know, you say that and it almost, it sounds unreal. It's like, no, that can't be right. Say that again. That can't be right. No, you can't. That can't be right. Well, frankly, in my view, the conviction is preposterous. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ludicrous. But nevertheless, this George Soros puppet, Alvin Bragg, has convened a criminal case, got a grand jury to indict him, brought a criminal case, and got a bunch of New York liberals to convict Donald Trump of, I'm not even going to get into it, because at this, to date, I don't really even know what they convicted the man of. I mean, because it is so ridiculous. But nevertheless, he is a convicted felon. I'm pretty sure he will not be able to vote for himself in Florida. I'm pretty sure. Some of these liberal states, a convicted felon can vote. Most states, a convicted felon cannot vote. Some states, they allow you to vote after you've served your prison time. After you've served your prison time. I think they even allow you to vote if you're on probation or parole, but you can't vote while you're in prison. But Donald Trump is running for president, and look, all things being equal, this is still June, we're 5 months away from the election, but all things being equal, Donald Trump will become the next president of the United States again. Now again, anything can happen between now and November, but if things continue on the track they're on, and we prevent the Democrats from cheating their way to victory, committing fraud to gain victory, Donald Trump will be president of the United States again. And here's the kicker. He may well become president of the United States because of the things that the Democrats did and are doing to try to stop him. Like getting him more black votes by making him a convicted felon. Because look, 1 out of 3 black men, on my understanding, the latest data I've seen, 1 out of 3 black men has a felony on their record. 1 out of 3. Now that's The overwhelming majority do not. But we know this is a major social problem when a third of the people, a third of adult males, have been incarcerated or convicted of a felony. That is a major problem. And it's not just those people, it's their families, their wives, their sons, their daughters, their cousins, their brothers, their nieces, all the family members around them who maybe are imbued with this attitude. I mean, leaving aside the crimes they commit to do these, to end up incarcerated, end up convicted, which is not the case with Donald Trump, but still see this as part of a kind of nationwide attempt to engage in what the left calls mass incarceration. Now, I don't agree with that, but nevertheless, there are many people who see it that way. And now Donald Trump becomes the poster boy for the injustice of the criminal so-called justice system. It's amazing. And look, let me just be clear, folks. If Donald Trump wins a significant number of black votes, in other words, if he breaks the historic trend and he gets to 20%, 25%, 30% of the black vote, that is the poison pill for the Democrat Party. That is a dagger in the heart of the Democrat machine. Because, folks, in order to win national elections in some states, in order to win statewide elections, they need 90, 95% of the black vote. If they're down to 75%, 65%, I mean 60%, 75%, 70%, 65%, they're done. They're done. You can just ship their saddle home because it's over. And to think that this might happen because of what they've tried to do to Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump was in Detroit yesterday, and he was talking about this 1994 Crime Act that is now seen as some kind of racist plot. And the Democrats were completely behind it. In fact, Joe Biden was one of the people in the forefront. And apparently, according to Donald Trump, I don't recall this myself, but I think Donald Trump attributed this to Joe Biden coming up with this concept of super predators. I think Hillary Clinton may have used that term too. Bill Clinton. Super predators, referring, of course, to the black criminals, the crackheads or gangbangers or whatever, who were terrorizing the black community at that time. And by the way, folks, let me just tell you, I lived through that as a pastor in the inner city of Boston. My church was in the heart of the ghetto. And I'll tell you, it was bad. It was bad, folks. And so this effort to deal aggressively with the crack cocaine epidemic was not the result of some racist plot. It was the result of complaints by black folks who thought, you can't live like this. This is untenable. You have to remember, most of the crime in the black community is committed by about 10% of the people. That leaves 90% of the people who are not committing crimes who have to live under that criminal regime. And let me tell you what it was like in Boston. I experienced it firsthand. I remember getting a call in the middle of the night and ending up at a police station in Roxbury, which is, again, kind of the heart of the ghetto. My church was in Mattapan, but Roxbury, Mattapan, that's the heart of the ghetto. Because one of my church members had been raped and robbed by a crackhead who had climbed through the window. Somehow gotten into her apartment, raped her, and robbed her. And I'm at the police station in the middle of the night trying to console her and trying to figure out what the police can do about it. You know what they were able to do about it? Nothing. I mean, there was so much of this stuff going on that they were overwhelmed. Shootouts in the streets, because you had basically two elements. You had the crackheads who would do anything to get crack. And I've talked to people who got delivered from crack, and they've told me what that world was like. And folks, whew, it was ugly. It was ugly. I mean, because people were so addicted that they would do anything, hurt anybody in order to get that next hit. In fact, believe it or not, folks, this, I know this might sound unbelievable. We actually had a shootout in our church parking lot where somebody running from the cops had driven into our church parking lot, and we're in church. I don't know whether we were in a Sunday morning service or we were at some special service, but it happened while we were in service. We heard gunfire outside. It's the police in our parking lot. They had to cordon off our parking lot. It became a crime scene. I kid you not. One church, Morning Star Baptist, two gangbangers got into a shootout. The shootout spilled into the church during a funeral. And they literally shot it out in the church with people hiding under pews, scrambling for the doors, while these two guys shot at each other in the church in the middle of a funeral. And I just gave you two examples. I mean, I could go on. This was real. But of course, now the Democrats are running from it because, it's been recharacterized as, a racist plot and mass incarceration and all of that. And look, my attitude was always punish powder cocaine the same way you punish crack cocaine, and that way you don't have a problem. Harsh punishment because this stuff is bad. And by the way, this idea that crack cocaine was cheaper, therefore, you could, and they say one hit was enough to addict you. But from everything I know, powdered cocaine is no different. Just more expensive. And once you get addicted to powdered cocaine, you would do anything to get your next hit. I mean, it is a serious addiction. It's not a joke. Punish them both. But the effort to punish crack cocaine was based upon the hue and cry of the black community saying, what is going to be done about the murder and mayhem that is taking place in this community? I can't tell you how many prayer vigils I had where people got gunned down in the streets, young children murdered. You all know I have a project called America's Forgotten Children. There it is right there. Go to that website, americasforgottenchildren.com. .com or .org should get you there. 624 murdered children in America since 2020. 624. Not gangbangers, not teenagers out in the middle of the night doing what they got no business doing. No, kids sleeping in their beds, playing in their yards, riding their bikes up and down the street, in their parents' cars, murdered because some gangbangers decided that they were going to take somebody else's life and ends up taking the life of some innocent child. 1 month old, 3 months old, 4 months, 1 year old, 2 years old, 4 years, 3 years old, 4 years, 5 years old. I mean, many of these kids are just young, innocent children. Bullets coming through their. In fact, the latest one, one of the most recent ones, a bullet came through the house and shot the girl dead. Legend Taliaferro, one of the earlier examples of this, just after coming out of the George Floyd debacle, that's where he was killed. He was killed sleeping in his bed at night when the bullet came through, shot him in the head and killed him instantly. So this kind of stuff really started in earnest, or there was an epidemic of it during the crack epidemic. And there was an attempt to deal with that, which now, of course, has been renounced. But who would have thought that a billionaire, Donald Trump, would have people looking at him saying the criminal justice system treated him unfairly, just like the criminal justice treated me unfairly, I can relate to Donald Trump. That's what we've got. I can relate to Donald Trump. You know, that's why I say the hand of God is on Donald Trump, because whatever they try to use against him ends up working for him. Now, I wanted to get into, by the way, I interviewed Bob Good on the radio program toward the end of it. You all know that tomorrow is election day here in Virginia, and congressional election primaries are being held. Bob Good is on the ballot, and he does have an opponent. I know them both. His opponent is somebody I know. And by the way, somebody I like. I don't like him for this office, but I know him and like him personally. And in fact, you know, and folks, forgive me, this is just a little footnote off the beaten path, but I need to say this. You know, I still do not understand why people in politics, well, forgive me, that's not right. I do understand it. But I guess what I should say is, when are people in politics going to come to understand that making politics personal and being vindictive and hateful and bitter and nasty is stupid? Not to mention sinful. You have to answer to God for all that stuff. See, I refuse to do that. I want Bob Good to win this primary. If he doesn't win, I'm not going to hate his opponent. You know, and maybe he'll serve us well. Who knows? I hope he will. But I'm certainly not going to spend any time hating on him. You know, there's some people who found out that I was endorsing Bob Good, and I endorsed Bob Good, and it came out at an inopportune time, and then they set out to hurt me. I mean, but again, you know, people are going to answer to God for this stuff. That's what they don't know. They're going to answer to God for it. But not going to answer to me. I'm not going to seek any vengeance. When people behave that way, I know to stay away from them, because I know that they have no integrity, they have no honor, they have no decency. They're sharks, and you stay away from sharks, because sooner or later, I don't care how much you think you can pet a shark, sooner or later a shark will bite you, because they're not for anybody but their own stomachs. They're not for anybody but themselves, ultimately. And sooner or later they'll hurt you. But but if you're in the 5th Congressional District, make sure you vote for Bob Good. Bob Good is the man. He's the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, and he's the right person for that job. Period. Period. And I don't even think it's a close question, in my view. Don't even think it's a close question. Okay? And again, that's with no bitterness or hatred or rancor toward his opponent, okay, whom I know. But I just believe Bob Good's the right person for that job. I've endorsed him. I've contributed to him. And if I were in the 5th Congressional District, I'd be voting for him. I'm not. But if you are, make sure you get out there and vote for him. In this case, I'm going to be voting for the Republican, Jen Kagans. Don't know her. No, I think I've met her once or twice, but I don't really know her well. I know people who know her, and you know, I didn't support her in the primary, by the way, because I have a tendency to support the most conservative candidate, unless both are equally conservative, and I have some personal interest in one person, like with Bob Good. I don't know whether his opponent is as conservative as he is. Frankly, I can't attest to that. But I do know that Bob Good is conservative, but Bob Good is also a dear friend of mine, and there's no way in the world I'm not going to support Bob Good unless he were to do something that would make me feel like, okay, well, he's now violated that friendship or violated the principles that we believe in, and I can't support him in what he's doing. I mean, that can happen, because to me, it's principle above personality, okay? It's principle above personality. I think that's the way God wants us to function. Otherwise, we become just rank hack politicians, where we just basically support anybody based upon their party affiliation or based upon some personal relationship, and we don't really care what they do. But again, you got to answer to God for that too. Okay, all right. That I said that was a footnote. Let me leave that alone. Let me come back to this criminal justice system issue, because I want to raise Two issues before I go, and wow, my goodness gracious, I can't believe how much time has gone by already. Merrick Garland has been referred to the criminal justice system, which he runs, by the U.S. House of Representatives for contempt of Congress for refusing to respond to subpoenas from Congress. They referred him for criminal prosecution for contempt of Congress, but nothing will be done about that. But Peter Navarro was referred for contempt of Congress for refusing to answer questions, and Peter Navarro is in jail right now, in federal prison right now. And Steve Bannon refused to respond to subpoenas, and Steve Bannon is going to prison on July 1. So what I want to know is, how does Merrick Garland get a pass, and Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro go to jail for the same thing? Well, it's very simple. The Democrat Party doesn't believe in the criminal justice system. They believe in their own agenda. And they will use anything, use anybody, lie, steal, cheat, violate any rule, commit any act of immorality in order to make sure that their agenda is furthered. And their agenda is, frankly, Marxism. That's really what it is. It's cultural Marxism. But their agenda is also get Donald Trump at all costs, no matter what it takes. Hurt Donald Trump. So anything that gets in the way of that, they don't care what they have to do, what rule they have to violate, who they have to lie to, how they have to cheat, what fraud they have to commit. Getting Donald Trump is it. So, of course, Merrick Garland's not going to hold himself accountable, and the president is not going to fire him and say, well, you're in contempt of Congress. I'm going to put somebody else in there to hold you accountable. No, he's not going to do that. By the way, you all know that Eric Holder was also held in contempt of Congress. I used to say, well, I held him in contempt a long time before Congress did. Because to me, the man was just like Barack Obama, just a complete zero. Just a complete zero. A leftist through and through. A race man through and through. Racist, leftist, Marxist. I mean, his firm was proud of the fact that they were representing these terrorists held at Guantanamo Bay. Over there trying to get them released. And most of them, when released, did what? Went back to fighting to kill Americans and kill Jews. And that's what's his name? But Eric Holder. That's Eric Holder. I was bringing Eric Holder and Merrick Garland together, but that's Eric Holder. So, do you trust the criminal justice system? That's the question I asked on the radio this morning. I tell you, to me, it's a complicated answer, because my trust for the criminal justice system has eroded significantly. Because I think when leftists are in charge, it's not about the rule of law. It's simply about using it to reward your friends and punish your enemies. That's a banana republic. That's a third world country, folks. It's not a constitutional republic. That's not the illustrious United States of America. That's not the way we behave. But that's the way the Democrats behave. That's the way they roll. And it's disgusting. And it's corrupt. Thoroughly corrupt. And you know what? The callers in on American Family Radio, when I asked them, you know what everybody said, no, I don't trust the criminal justice system anymore. I don't trust it. You want to lock Donald Trump up, but you want to release violent criminals on the streets of our cities to carjack and rape and murder and do surprise assaults against people that put their lives in danger. And you want to justify all of that, but you want to put Donald Trump in prison. How does that work? And of course, now Donald Trump has turned the tables on them, because of course Joe Biden and Bill Clinton and I think Hillary as well were in the forefront of passing the 1994 Criminal Justice Act that punished crack cocaine very severely, use of crack cocaine, dealing crack cocaine. And of course, later on, that became a racial issue because they said, well, crack cocaine was used primarily by black people, powder cocaine by white people. So they were punishing black people more than white people. Now, all of a sudden, those same leftists, those same Democrats, oh, mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa. We didn't really mean it. We got caught in a racial trap. As I said, folks, I lived through that crack epidemic in Boston. It was horrific. It was horrific. So, in fact, I spoke at Old Dominion University before with a group that was assembled. It was the NAACP, the Black Student Union, and the Republican Club at ODU that all came together to have me come speak to them all. And it was interesting because the head of the NAACP ended up agreeing with me more than disagreeing. But one kid stood up and he said, how can a black man make it in America when if he uses crack, he goes to jail for years, but white guy uses powder cocaine and he may not go to jail at all, maybe get a slap on the wrist. And I said to him, I said, have you ever considered not using crack or powdered cocaine or using drugs at all? And I'm serious. He looked at me and paused for a second and said, I hadn't thought about that. I thought to myself, you know. Look, we want the criminal justice system to be fair. Of course we do, right? Of course we do. But my goodness, we are spending no time developing people internally and morally and spiritually so they don't come into the clutches of the criminal justice system. Leaving aside going after people like Donald Trump for nothing. But you know, I said, I haven't had to face the dilemma of more punishment for crack or powder because I don't use any of it. But that's kind of a separate matter. But that's the issue that we've got to get to, right? The issue we got to get to is the demand side of this thing of saying to people, why in the world are you destroying your life? Why in the world are you giving your life over to something that turns you into a slave? But again, I've got grave misgivings at this point about the criminal justice system and how it's being used today. It's sad. It's sad. So here's the other thing I want to raise with you. And this, of course, we've 5 months from the election. I said, all things being equal, Donald Trump will win this election in a landslide. But, we have to be aware that the Democrats are prepared to cheat. They're prepared to lie, to cheat, to commit fraud. Folks, that's why they don't want voter ID. You know, you got to have an ID today to do anything. I'm trying to think, what was I? I wasn't even trying. Oh, yeah. Right. You know, for the dinner, I went up, you know, we rented hotel rooms. And the first thing you did when you arrived, may I see your license, please? You got to have an ID. And anybody who doesn't have an ID can easily get one. They don't. This is not about trying to protect black people. This is about wanting to commit fraud and getting things out of the way that make that harder. That's why they don't want caller. That's why they don't want voter ID. That's why they want universal mail-in ballots. That's why they want people to be able to vote early. Yeah, because you got a whole lot more time to plan and to plot and to figure out how you can get votes in that don't belong. That's why they're registering illegal immigrants. Yes, illegal immigrant is given a license in many states. They're also given a voter card. You register to vote when you get a license. It's automatic. That's why they want ballot harvesting. Somebody going around collecting ballots. Did you vote the right way? Oh, yeah, this is good. Thank you. Because they want to cheat their way to victory. Because they don't care about America and they don't care about the integrity of our system. If you really care about our country, you care about the actual integrity of the voting system. Whether you win or lose an election is less important than that the election be held fairly. Because you care about the country and you care about the American people. But when you only care about yourself and your own power, you don't care how you get an election, how you win it. You don't care. Doesn't matter. Because it's not about the people. It's not about the country. It's not about the Constitution. It's about power. It's about you, about what you want. And that's what we've got. That's what we've got in the Democrat Party today. I've said before, folks, and I got to get ready to go. Oh, my goodness, I got to go. That the Democrat Party is the party of Antichrist. Because everything wrong they're against. I mean, everything wrong they're for, and everything right they're against. I said everything God wants, everything God says they disagree with, everything the devil says they agree with. Pretty much. Killing unborn babies? Yeah, we're for that. Gender confusion, telling girls they're boys and boys they're girls? Yeah, we're for that. Cheating on elections? Yeah, we're for that. Flooding the country with a bunch of illegal immigrants, even if they're criminals and terrorists and rapists and pedophiles and human traffickers and drug dealers? Yeah, we're for that. Well, look, I would encourage you, go to standamerica.us. Forgive me, Stand America. Well, you go to standamerica.us as well. You want to support us. Go to standamerica.us. Check out all of our programs and things we're doing. But look, for purposes of today's discussion, go to standamericapac.us. And if you haven't watched Exodus Now, the sequel yet, watch it. And please share it. Share the link with others. And particularly if you know black voters, by all means, share it with them. Because it will open their eyes if they'll watch it. Now, it's 10 minutes long, which people say now folks only have a 20-minute attention span, but please. I mean, 10 minutes is a short time. I preach 50 minutes to an hour every Sunday, so don't tell me 10 minutes is a long time. And they can watch it. If they have to, they can watch it in snippets, 3 minutes at a time. But share it. Share it with others. Because it will help open their eyes. Because, look, we have a project for Stand America PAC called Save America, Elect Donald Trump. You can contribute there as well to it. And that's one of the things that we're doing. We're focused on Christian voters, making sure that they stick with Donald Trump, and on black voters, making sure they keep coming toward Donald Trump. Both are essential to his victory. He's got to have Christian voters. Got to have us. And I'll tell you what, if this race is close, which I suspect it ultimately will be, black voters could be the margin of victory. Well, that's going to do it for today. God bless each and every one of you. I'm glad to be able to be with you today, even though I'm a little later. I'll be also on a little later tomorrow, so I'll be on from tomorrow starting about 9 a.m. after the radio program. But in the meantime, folks, you stand up, step up, speak up, refuse to back up, because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit, because we are on God's side.